Fisheye lens explained in plain English in less than 10 minutes. Hi and welcome to episode 65 of the Photography Explained podcast. I'm your host Rick, and in each episode I will explain one photographic thing to you in plain English in less than 10 minutes-ish without the irrelevant details. What I tell you is based on my lifetime of photographic experience and not Google. Okay, there was a bit of Google on this one, but we'll get there, the fundamentals on you. Let's get into this. Here is the answery bit. A fisheye lens is an ultra-wide camera lens that typically provides a 180-degree field of view. A fisheye lens can be either circular or full frame, with the circular type taking a circular image with the black surround and the full frame fisheye lens taking a distorted image that fills the frame. Fisheye lenses produce alternative, dramatic, distorted images, but mind your feet. I'll come back to that. Let's start at the beginning. Where does fisheye come from? I did do a Google search for this because I genuinely did not know. According to Google, the term fisheye lens was coined by Robert W. Wood in 1906. Right, 1906, fisheye lens. Why fish? Yeah, I found some alternative names that we could use. The first one, the one that I really liked, was chameleon lens. It turns out that chameleon can see 360 degrees, which I can't really get my head round. But instead of fisheye lens, shall we call them chameleon lenses? No, let's call them fisheye lenses because I can say that. I thought that all sorts of reptiles had 180 degrees, like geckos, frogs, lizards, stuff like that. But fisheye was the term. So we've established there are two main types of fisheye lens. First one, a circular fisheye. A circular fisheye lens produces a circular image which has a black surround. I'll come back to this. Full frame. A full frame fisheye lens produces an image that fills the frame, albeit distorted. Now when I say fill the frame, when you look through your viewfinder, on a circular fisheye lens you've got a circle in the middle. It's not filling the whole frame, but with the full frame one, it's less circular and it fills the frame. Fisheye focal length. Now this I didn't know, so it was good to look into something and learn something from it. Circular fisheye lenses are typically 8 to 10 mm on a full frame camera. Full frame fisheye lenses are typically 15 to 16 mm on a full frame camera. So yes, you got a full frame lens on a full frame camera, and it has a different meaning. Why is photography so complicated, eh? What about crop sensor cameras then? Now this is where it gets a bit tricky. 8 to 10 mm gives you a circular fisheye image, but you put that on a cropped sensor camera and your focal length is about 13 mm, meaning you won't get the full circular image. So as far as I'm aware, you can't get a circular fisheye on an APS-C or crop sensor camera. But you can on a Micro Four Thirds, thinking about it, because Olympus do one. It's an 8 mm one. So it might not be circular. That's what I understand. You don't get circular fisheye lenses on crop sensor cameras or Micro Four Thirds cameras. If I'm wrong, let me know. More importantly, mind your feet. Now I've experienced this. I'll touch on this in a bit. If you think about this one, if you take a photo looking straight ahead, stood up normally, with a camera lens with a 180-degree field of view, your feet will probably be in the photo. You either have to lean forward so they're not, or tilt your camera up, or prepare yourself for some time in Photoshop removing your feet and legs. Tripod legs is another good one. When I have my fisheye, I quite often got my tripod legs in there. Not a problem, but just something to remember if you do go down this road. What are they used for? What are fisheye lenses used for? Well, dramatic cityscapes, funky interiors, pointing up at trees, behind the scenes shots, different group shots. They're great from high and low viewpoints, or just to get a different viewpoint of anything. Do I use one? I did have a Canon 8 to 15 mm zoom lens for some time. It's a crazy thing, I have to say, because the 8mm is your circular fisheye. So it took photos which were circular with a big black frame around them. I took a few photos, and to be brutally honest with you, I've never used one for anything ever. I could not think of a single possible use for a circular fisheye image. Maybe that's just my lack of imagination or creativity, and thinking about it, Instagram would be a good platform for it. But for my work, it was no use to me. No use at all. 15mm, however, was a different thing. 15mm gave me very funky, distorted wide photos. And one of the things I used to really enjoy doing was going into the New Forest, finding a load of trees, obviously not difficult in a forest, lying on my back and pointing my camera up, and you can see all the trees bending into the middle. Yeah, it's unusual, it's funky, it's a bit artsy. It's great fun, and I love doing them. I've not really made any use out of the photos, and I've never used my fisheye zoom on a commercial shoot ever. It just doesn't work for architectural photography, not my style. I'm not saying it doesn't work and you can't use them. It doesn't work for me. As you've heard in recent episodes, I bought a lens, tried it, didn't need it, and at some point later sold it. How much do fisheye lenses cost? They're not going to be cheap, are they? Actually, in relative terms, if we go back to the last episode, the Canon 800mm lens, it was 13 grand. For the Canon 8-15 fisheye zoom lens, take a naught off, you're looking at about 1300 quid at the time of recording, May 2021. Ooh, first time I put a date on an episode. What's the point of them? What is the point of a fisheye lens? They're great fun. They're great to play around with. I don't have a need for a fisheye lens. I really don't. I've tried it. I got some good stuff. What did I get? Dramatic cityscapes. I'll go back to my list. I took some interesting photos of Bournemouth Pier with the 14mm bit, where I was pretty much had the pier top left of the frame, one corner, and then the pier running away in the distance. Yes, it looked a bit artificial because it is, but it was funky. I also did some circular stuff that, like I say, never used. I got some good photos. Well, in terms of interiors, I had a go at a few interiors on shoots, but I never used the images. Pointing up at trees I mentioned. Behind the scenes shots is an interesting one because you can get right behind someone, you can get the whole thing in. That's actually a really good use of them. Different group shots. I've seen a photographer use a fisheye lens at a wedding, get the camera on a pole above a group and then look down on them and take a photo. You don't need to worry about focusing because the focus point's just ridiculous. The depth of field is endless. And it was a really good overhead shot. Nowadays, I guess you'd use a drone or something. And if you've got a fisheye lens, high and low viewpoints just exaggerate the distortion that they give you. I should mention the distortion. It's a major thing. High and low viewpoints. Get the camera down on the ground, point it up, and it just makes everything go a bit nuts. And again, looking down on things is good. I also got a really cool photo thinking about it. These things are coming back to me now. It was stood on a jetty, and I managed to get all of the jetty in, including the bit I was stood on, and it was all sharp, and the sky was massive and endless, and I was shooting straight into the sun. It was take 10 things that you shouldn't do when you're taking a photograph and do them, and what do you get? You either get rubbish or you get a great photo. I got a really good photo. I loved it. Yeah, I sold the lens really because I didn't have a commercial need for it, and I don't tend to take that many photographs for myself these days, as sad as it is. And they have this big bulbous piece of glass on the front that looks ever so prone, and the lens hood's big and you can't put filters on the front of them. But apart from that, there's nothing wrong with them. If that's what you're into, if you like using a fisheye lens, knock yourself out, do it. If you enjoy it that much, make it your thing. Be the fisheye photographer. Nothing wrong with that. Always good to be different. My one-line summary. Fisheye lenses are ultra-wide-angle lenses offering a unique perspective. Next episode. Well, my notes are wrong again. It says episode 65. This is episode 65, isn't it? Well, after fisheye lenses, I'm going to move on to my nemesis. Not really, that was a bit dramatic, wasn't it? I'm going to talk about tilt-shift lenses. I had to be careful that I don't mispronounce that one because I need to keep my clean family rating. Okay, I'm done here. Please leave a nice review and rating if you enjoyed this episode or any other episode come to that, and please subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And if you could tell one person about my podcast, I'd be most grateful. To find out more about my podcast and to ask me a question of your own, check out the Photography Explained podcast website. And to find out more about me, please go to my website, rickmcavoyphotography.com. Now, I have to tell you now that due to endless coughing, spluttering and errors, this was about take 18. This was a bad one to start with. Yeah, I had to walk away, calm down, come back, start again. I think we got there in the end. I think it's all good. So I will say thank you. Thank you very much for listening to my small but perfectly formed podcast. This episode was brought to you by the powers of recovery after a coughing fit and something stuck in my throat. I've been Rick McAvoy. Thank you once again very much for listening to me and for giving me 12 and nearly 3/4 minutes of your valuable time. And I will see you on the next episode. Cheers from me, Rick.